He came home early and caught his wife hurting his little daughter. The ending will leave you in tears. The rain lashed against the windows of David's luxury sedan, mirroring the storm brewing in his chest. Another late night at the office, another deal closed, another step up the corporate ladder. He'd forgotten his daughter Lily's favorite stuffed rabbit, Mr. Hops, on his desk. The thought of her tearful face when she couldn't sleep without it spurred him to turn the car around, heading home an hour earlier than usual. He'd surprise them, bring Mr. Hops, maybe even catch Lily before her bedtime story. He let himself in quietly, the familiar scent of home, lemon polish, and something faintly floral, usually a comfort. But tonight, it felt charged, wrong. Silence hung heavy, thick with an unspoken tension. Then a sound sliced through it, a small, choked sob, muffled but unmistakable. Lily's voice. David's heart hammered against his ribs. He dropped his briefcase silently, his polished shoes making no sound on the hardwood as he moved towards the living room. The door was slightly ajar. Through the crack, he saw his wife, Sarah, standing rigidly near the sofa, and there, curled on the floor, was Lily. His 6-year-old daughter, his bright-eyed, laughter-filled Lily, was huddled in a ball, her thin frame trembling. She wore her favorite pink gown, one knee scraped raw. Her small hands clutched her stomach, and her face was streaked with tears, eyes wide with a terror David had never seen before. She was on crutches, a recent minor fracture from a playground tumble. Nothing serious, the doctor had said. Just needed rest and support. But it wasn't the crutches that froze David's blood. It was Sarah's posture. Her back was unnaturally straight, her knuckles white where she gripped the edge of the coffee table. Her voice, usually warm honey, was a low, venomous hiss David barely recognized. Whoa, useless. Can't even stand properly without falling. Look at this mess. Sarah gestured sharply towards a spilled glass of milk on the rug. Clumsy. Just like your father. Always causing trouble. Always needing something. Do you have any idea how hard I work, how much I sacrifice? And for what? A broken doll on crutches. Lily flinched as if struck, burying her face in her knees, her small shoulders shaking with silent sobs. I'm sorry, Mommy, she whispered, her voice raw. I really tried. Sorry doesn't clean the rug. Sorry doesn't make you normal. Sarah snapped, her voice cracking with a fury that seemed disproportionate, unhinged. She took a step closer, looming over the tiny figure. Maybe if you weren't so weak, so fragile. David saw red. A primal roar tore from his throat, raw and guttural, shattering the suffocating silence. Sarah. Both figures jerked. Sarah spun around, her face draining of color, eyes wide with shock that quickly morphed into defensive fury. Lily looked up, her tear-filled eyes locking onto her father's. The sheer, unadulterated relief and desperate hope in that gaze nearly buckled David's knees. He was across the room in 3 strides, dropping to his knees beside Lily, ignoring Sarah's sputtering protests. He gathered his daughter into his arms, cradling her trembling body against his chest, careful of the crutches. She buried her face in his neck, her small arms clinging to him with a strength born of pure terror. He felt the dampness of her tears soak through his expensive shirt, felt the frantic beat of her heart against his own. What did you do? David's voice was dangerously low, trembling with a rage so profound it felt like ice in his veins. He didn't look at Sarah. His entire world had shrunk to the fragile child in his arms. Sarah recovered quickly, her expression shifting to wounded indignation. David, you startled me. I was just disciplining her. She spilled milk again, and she's been so difficult since the accident, whining constantly. I was trying to toughen her up. You coddle her too much. Toughen her up. David finally looked at her, his eyes blazing. By calling her useless, by telling her she's broken, by terrifying her. He held Lily tighter, feeling her shivers subside slightly at his presence. Look at her, Sarah. Look at what you've done. Sarah's mask slipped for a fraction of a second, revealing a flicker of something cold and hard beneath the facade of the perfect wife and mother. Then it was gone, replaced by practiced defensiveness. You don't understand the pressure, David. The constant demands. You're never here. You leave it all to me. The hypocrisy was staggering. David had built his career, yes, but always believing Sarah cherished their daughter, protected her. He'd trusted her implicitly. Now that trust lay shattered like the glass on the floor. He saw it clearly, the subtle signs he'd dismissed as stress, Lily's flinches when Sarah raised her voice, her sudden quietness, the way she'd cling to him longer during goodbyes. He'd been blind. Get out, David said, his voice terrifyingly calm. Pack a bag. You're leaving now. Sarah's eyes widened in genuine shock. "David, you can't be serious. Where would I go? This is my home." "This," David said, his gaze fixed on Lily's tear-streaked face, "is her home, and you are no longer welcome in it. Not after this." He pulled out his phone, his hand steady despite the tremor in his soul. "I'm calling the police and Child Protective Services. You will not be alone with her again, ever." The next hours were a blur of flashing lights, stern-faced officers taking statements, a gentle social worker speaking softly to a now silent Lily who refused to let go of David's hand. Sarah left, escorted by an officer, her face a mask of fury and disbelief, shouting accusations that bounced off David like rain off stone. He only had eyes for his daughter. The days that followed were a crucible. Lily was withdrawn, jumping at sudden noises, flinching if David moved too quickly. The vibrant spark in her eyes was dimmed, replaced by a wary watchfulness. David took indefinite leave from work. His world narrowed to the soft hum of the house, the gentle rhythm of Lily's breathing as she slept fitfully, the careful way he helped her navigate the house on her crutches. He learned to read her silences. He learned that bath time triggered panic, so he sat outside the door, talking softly about Mr. Hops's adventures until she felt safe. He learned that loud voices, even on TV, made her curl into herself, so the house became a sanctuary of quiet murmurs and soft music. He spent hours just sitting with her, holding her hand, reading stories in the gentlest voice he could muster, rebuilding trust brick by fragile brick. One rainy afternoon, much like the day he'd come home early, Lily sat on the sofa, Mr. Hops clutched tightly. David sat beside her, not touching, just present. The silence stretched, comfortable this time, not charged. "Daddy," her voice was barely a whisper. "Yes, sweetheart." He kept his voice soft. "Mommy," she said, "I was broken, like my leg." A single tear traced a path down her cheek. David's heart cracked anew. He gently wiped the tear away. "Oh, Lilybug," he murmured, his own voice thick, "you are not broken, not even a little bit. Your leg is healing, just like your heart will. You are the strongest, bravest, most wonderful girl I know." Mommy was hurting inside, in a way that made her say terrible things. "It wasn't about you. It was never about you being not enough. You are more than enough. You are everything." Lily looked up at him, searching his face. The wary watchfulness was still there, but beneath it, a tiny flicker of the old light. "Everything, everything," David confirmed, pulling her gently into his lap, cradling her carefully. "My whole world." Weeks turned into months. The crutches were gone, replaced by a slight limp that the doctor said would fade. Lily started laughing again, a hesitant, then a full, bubbling sound that filled the house with warmth David hadn't known he'd been missing. She drew pictures, of him, of Mr. Hops, of sunshine and rainbows. She never drew Sarah. One evening, as David tucked her into bed, she reached up and touched his cheek. "Daddy?" David swallowed the lump in his throat, kissing her forehead. "Thank you, my brave girl, for being here." The legal proceedings were final. Sarah's visitation rights were revoked indefinitely. David didn't feel triumph, only a profound, weary relief. The betrayal still ached, a deep scar, but it was overshadowed by the fierce, protective love that now defined his existence. The true healing wasn't just Lily's, it was David's too. He'd learned that success wasn't measured in boardrooms or bank accounts, but in the quiet moments of safety he could provide, in the trust slowly reforged in his daughter's eyes. He'd learned to see the world through her lens, a world that needed gentleness, patience, and unwavering love. Years later, Lily, now a confident teenager with a dancer's grace and eyes that held both wisdom and lingering shadows, stood on a stage accepting a scholarship. David watched from the audience, his chest tight with pride. After the ceremony, she found him, throwing her arms around him. "Remember that rainy day, Dad?" she asked softly, a knowing look in her eyes. He nodded, pulling her close. Every single second. She squeezed him tighter. "You saved me." David held her, the tears he'd held back for so long finally spilling over. Tears of sorrow for the pain she'd endured, tears of gratitude for her resilience, and tears of overwhelming love for the incredible young woman she'd become despite it all. He hadn't just saved her that day. She had saved him, teaching him the only thing that truly mattered. And in that embrace, surrounded by the echoes of her achievement and the quiet strength they'd both forged in the fire of betrayal, David knew the ending wasn't just tears of pain. It was tears of hard-won peace, of a love that had been broken and meticulously, tenderly rebuilt, stronger than before. The little girl on crutches was gone, replaced by a young woman standing tall, and the man who came home early had finally found his true home, right beside her. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to ACA Storytales for more heartfelt stories.